let's talk about GPS, or the Global Positioning System. Now, the Global Positioning System is a network of satellites, and there's a number of different components. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but the reason that it came about is because of our military. And as we go through a lot of these geotechnologies, the military has a lot to do with the development. They have the money, and so they have the money to develop a lot of those things. So what the problem was that they wanted to solve is how to find out where you are located. Right? And so how do we do that? Well, if you had a map, you could look at the terrain and start to figure out, based on the terrain, what's around. But if you don't have a map of the location, then that's a problem. If you're really good, then you can look at the stars and you can see, okay, well, there's that constellation and there's that North Star, and start to get oriented a little bit as well. But if it is daytime, you don't see any stars, or if there's smoke, or if there's clouds or other things that a lot of times our military ran into, then that's a problem that they had as well. And so what they did is they decided that they would put up this network of satellites. We'll talk in a bit about what those satellites did, but they have this network of satellites that are there in the sky, and they're sending down a specific signal, a radio signal, and that signal is going to be giving us all sorts of information. They came up with this idea in 1978. They actually started doing it, and they started launching these satellites up into space. Around 1994, they got the last of the 24 satellites in this network sent up there. They were a little concerned at first because the satellites could pinpoint a location. We'll talk about how in just a second, but as they were pinpointing these locations, we really were concerned that the bad guy, our enemies, might be using this same system, because really it can be used anywhere by anybody. And so they had selective availability, is what they called it, and that selective availability made it so that our military GPS receivers were really, really accurate, but anyone else, not so much. And so even the ones that we would use for navigating, or for, the very primitive ones that people would have in their cars, those really were out there, and they were available, but the accuracy wasn't so good until 2000. Once the year 2000 came around, they realized that there was ways to cheat the system anyway, and so we might as well put it out there and not have this selective availability. And so that selective availability made it so that for the amateurs that were out there, for the non-military folks using GPS, it was limited a little bit until we got to 2000. So in quick review, our GPS stands for Global Positioning System. It was developed by our military. The first satellite went up in 1978. We call this program the navigation by the stars, but not really. The NavStar program, 1978, was the first satellite. In 1994, we had the 24th satellite. In 2000, we removed the selective availability. Okay, and those are going to be kind of those dates that we have. There's going to be a few other things that we're going to add in. We'll talk a little bit more about how we have a few more than 24 satellites. We also have this WAAS, and that's continuing to be used. So we don't necessarily have a date, but we'll talk a little bit more about that.